In this episode,
we're going to talk about Burnley, and my Twitter handle is Turfy Topper.
The Fantasy Football Show.
Welcome to episode 27 of the Planet FPL 1330. The fuck that, isn't it? 28. Just after asking.
Do you hear this guy, Jack? Literally just asked me.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 28 of the Planet FPL 30 and 30. Who's on episode 28? Just tell everyone. We're going to leave it all in.
We've got our Burnley correspondent at Turfy Topper. Jack, hello. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Excellent.
Good.
So we're talking about another team in claret and blue. Come on, Burnley.
Yeah, one of the originals, Burnley. One of the founder members of the league, weren't they, Jack?
Yeah, we actually copied Villa's colours, to be fair.
There you go, yeah. Well, we knew it wasn't copying West Ham's, mate, that's for sure.
I have no idea when we were founded or obviously after Burnley.
When
there
you
you go.
Steel City Works or something
Thames
like
Ironworks.
Yeah, terrific.
Back in the day, Thames Ironworks. So we're talking Burnley. Burnley, one of the clubs 2 seasons ago where you could have really found some decent bargains. And obviously really performed above what you'd expect from obviously the money you're paying on transfers and wages and all the rest of it. And then that stupid Europa League last season cocked up the start of the season that we're about to ask you, Jack, to be honest, but in my opinion that Europa League would have had a big impact. And then second half of the season Burnley came good again. But I'm interested in looking at Burnley because if some of the prices on the players drop back to where they were previously or even stay cheap, some good value to be had there at Burnley. But as always with our guests, we start with your FPL history, Jack. How was
do we have to?
We don't. Was it as bad as me? I was 700 and something thousand.
So you didn't want to say that.
Yeah, I think it was as bad as that.
Fair play. Well, let's drown our sorrows together.
The season before was all right. It's a bit like Burnley, really. The season before was good. Last season wasn't so good.
Yeah. What did you do the previous year?
I finished just outside the top 100, I think. 100k.
Okay, decent. That was your best ever rank?
Think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you play consistently all the way through this year, Jack?
Towards the end, I stopped a little bit, but...
He had a shocker.
I did too. So it goes to show that even when you are playing like the ghost teams and dead teams and all the rest of it, that you seem to be performing. You do your best. You try and make logical, sensible transfers. It just sometimes things go away from you.
Yeah, I think we're in the league at work, and I think I was trying to go for the differentials with them guys, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, when you start chasing, that's when you can really get caught out. The problem is if you're sticking with the herd, you're not really able to make up any ground because everyone's got the same players. And if you try to go for differentials, you end up getting stung because of differentials. So it is pretty tricky.
Before we get too deep into Burnley, Jack, I meant to do this with FPL Badger because he went as well. Yeah. Jack's just come back from the Nations League.
Okay, nice.
How was it, mate?
Yeah, it was fantastic. First time I've watched England abroad.
Yeah.
Obviously, you get a few of the knobheads, but the atmosphere was amazing. Like most away days, the football was rubbish. But no, yeah, it was a good trip. Definitely recommend going to watch England, like for anybody who's never seen them abroad.
Did you see any trouble or anything?
No, we sort of got there because I went to Madrid for a couple of nights before. We got there on the first night, and that's when it was all over Twitter with the trouble.
Yeah.
But I think that was mainly people kicking off with the Portuguese in the fan zone. But it's I think it was the police intervening sort of when they didn't need to. Obviously, there was probably a few people kicking it off. But other than that, like when we'd finished the game in Guimarães for this third place playoff, the locals actually gave the England fans a guard of honour. Don't know if you've seen the videos online. No. But they were all there like applauding the England fans going back. So the majority was pretty good, but obviously there's just a small minority that ruin it for everyone.
It always will be. Everywhere I've ever gone, there's always 1% of dickheads who want to fucking ruin it, unfortunately, which really spoils it for the 99% who want to get pissed and enjoy themselves and support their team. I've seen loads of videos like England fans, I think it was after the semi-final, cleaning up in the city square and that. And that shit's not going to be back page news, is it? No, it's going to be the one dickhead who starts a row with a copper. I have to say, my personal experiences overboard with watching Spurs, the only trouble I've seen mainly has been caused by police.
It quite often
particularly in Spain and Italy was bad. Yes. I've not been to Portugal.
When it was the for the final, because I went to go see the final as well. I went saw the third place playoff and then went to the final. But when you were coming back through the fan square, they would let Dutch through, they'd let Swiss through. As soon as we were going to walk through to go to our apartment with England shirts on, they were like, "Oh, no England fans." And it was just like, but everyone else is allowed through.
It's blatant.
We're England fans.
It's actually blatant racism.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately.
Talk to me a little bit, Jack. I don't want obviously this to become long on England, but you were in the ground for both England games and the final. Is that right?
Yeah.
Talk to me your emotions when Lingard scored but didn't.
It was just my mate's dad got cracked on the head with an elbow for some guy who came down like 5 flights of stairs. But you don't even think, like, you look at the linesman's not give it, you just go mental. Obviously it's one of the first England goals I've seen like live, so you just think, oh my god, like, it was a weird one, the Nations League, because you think it's not a major tournament, but it'd still be nice to be the first one we won since
that's what we said. Didn't give a shit, but if we won it, we were going to tell everyone.
Yeah.
And then it goes to VAR, and you just like we had it. It was a goal. And I suppose the clear and obvious thing is he was obviously offside, but I mean, it was like, it's his little toe, wasn't it? It was tiny. It was like marginal. So it's going to be carnage in the Premier League next season.
I can live with that. The fact that it's with offside, it's factual. There's no judgment on, did he get tripped in the box or he didn't. So it's factual. But it's the one I've got the biggest problem with because it just takes so long and it kills that moment. Like,
so what do you do?
Did you watch yesterday?
Do you wait? Are you going to wait like 2 minutes until?
That's what I'm saying. When do you celebrate?
Yeah.
You go to Turf Moor all the time. I know you do, and you obviously go away a bit as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, quite often. I think you sit on the side at Turf Moor, don't you?
Yeah.
I sit on the side at the new Spurs now, and you obviously sit on the side at West Ham.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit better. But when you're behind the goal, you've got no chance of understanding if it's close or
it's not.
When you're on the side, you can have a little bit, and when you're away from home, normally you probably will be low and behind the goal. You've got no idea, and that's the mental moment you want, that goal away from home when your man goes clean through.
Linesman's flag's not up, so you just go for it.
Well, we're trained to look for it, aren't we?
Yeah.
Those of us who go regularly, you think, you do the glance.
Yeah.
Is it on? Is it all right? We've spoken about this before. We highlighted really.
Flag.
I think it was the game we had against Leicester.
Which one?
One of your guys, was it Lucas Perez was offside?
He was flagged offside when he wasn't offside.
Correct,
Yeah. He broke through. We would have won
you
that 3-2.
You even said when you watched it live, you thought he was well offside.
Yeah, I thought he was well off. And the guy behind me was saying, I didn't think that was off. I was like, I didn't even want to turn around and have the conversation, so I just left it. Like, normally I'd be like, nah, mate, that was off. But I just thought, I'm not even going to have the conversation. And then when I jumped on the BBC Sport app and it said, he was well on, I was pretty surprised. And the other thing is, look at what happened yesterday with the women's game. Did you watch that? Or?
It's not yesterday.
I'd heard about it,
Yeah, it's not. Okay, so we're recording on Monday, so the podcast's not out.
The thing with the women's game,
forever.
Where Sidge is referring to the England-Cameroon game. I did watch the game. All the calls were correct, except for probably the Cameroon girl should have got sent off
for the elbow.
At the end. I don't know what the Cameroon girls were doing, pointing at the screen, saying, look at the screen. No, VAR just proved on...
Just Premier League.
Is that right?
Next season, if you gesture with the, TV with your hands, you can get booked.
Yeah, but they said all that, didn't they? The imaginary card, and that never gets fucking pulled down, does it?
But it ended up being over an hour, over 100 minutes. Sorry, not over an hour yesterday, just because they stopped playing and they refused to kick off and all that kind of stuff.
That game yesterday had 15 minutes added on.
Yeah, it's bonkers. It's bonkers. It's too long.
It can't happen.
To stop all this bickering, but it just makes it worse.
No, of course it does.
Yeah, and you don't want to point fingers and say that they're being petulant or whatever, but you can see the Premier League players doing the same thing and refusing to kick off, or so it's going to kick off in one game. I can see it where VAR is going to just ruin the entire game.
I think the majority of players will just understand if a decision is given by VAR, then
just move on.
That's it. My concerns more is not for the players or the game or the right result. It's that losing of that emotion of that moment.
Yeah.
Like when Sonny scored in the first leg against Man City, I basically never even celebrated because I thought the ball went out.
I just got distracted. Manchar just walked into the room. We're talking to Jack, who's Burnley turfy topper, that's the team that DJ Tim Westwood plays for, in case you wanted to ask a question.
Do you want to ask him anything about Ashley Westwood?
Tim Westwood.
Ashley Westwood.
This
is a live podcast. Do you want to ask anything about Ashley Westwood?
Westwood.
Is he any good, Jack?
He's amazing.
He's amazing.
Our player of the season.
He won their player of the season.
To be fair, we used to rib Manchard for having Westwood in his team because he's not a first choice or what you'd consider
he's not
an obvious. Nah, he's not at all. But he did return quite a lot last season, and it kept going week after week where he was catching me up in the second third of the season. He was literally only like 5 points behind me. And Ashley Westwood consistently, that's when he was getting attacking returns and really helped him catch up with me. But didn't put Ashley Westwood on my radar necessarily.
I can't remember what game it was at home, but he literally had 2 1-on-1s and he fluffed them both like in front of goal. Yeah, useless, but like in terms of like being a rock in midfield, he's just like it's been amazing this season.
Yeah,
the Villa fans slated him when we got him. They was like glad to get rid of him.
Where did he come from?
Villa.
Aston Villa.
Oh, of course. Yeah, the Villa team that went down was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah. Should we move on to Burnley?
We definitely should talk about Burnley. I was going to ask Jack in the first instance about the 2 players that he had in his starting lineup last season, or the 3 players even.
3 Burnley players.
You started with 3 Burnley players last season. Do you think you'd be doing the same again this year, mate?
I mean, I always have an affinity to having a couple in there. I mean, centre half, so you will probably put Tarkowski in there maybe, but I think he might be off to Leicester potentially as the Maguire replacement.
Yeah, Lewis Dunk's been mentioned with that as well.
But then but Brighton just picked up a central defender from Portsmouth in there, I think, a couple of days ago.
Yeah, so. I don't know if he'll go straight in the team. No, Matt Clark, I think it is. So you started, Jack, with a very, very podcast favourite, Joe Hart.
Yeah.
What's happened to him, mate?
Yeah. We've had this conversation before. Well, he's
regardless of what people say, and I think the opinion is split on Burnley fans, he didn't actually make a mistake in a Burnley shirt. And for me, and quite a few people who I'd talked to before a game, he would have been one of our contenders for player of the season until he got dropped. Because he actually didn't, like I said, he didn't do much wrong.
Yeah, he was tied with Fabianski at one point. They were neck and neck on most saves made up until around Christmas. In terms of saves made, he was doing particularly well.
Yeah, people were just saying it's the way he commanded his defence, but I think something else went on. I think there's been arguments saying that there's been a bit of a fallout between certain players with Daesh, Loughton being one of them in defence. So whether there was something gone on there, I don't know, but they certainly didn't play for Joe Hart like they have Tom Heaton when he came back in. That was such a big change after New Year when he put Heaton back in the team.
Tom Campbell at TC, he wanted to ask you what you thought were the 2 main things that changed. And I jumped in and said straight away the goalkeeper, and I also thought the fact he went back to 2 up front. Is it solely that, or is there more to it? Because the change in you from sort of, I mean, you came to us in December, you lost 1-0 with a very late goal. I come on the podcast afterwards, I went, they'll go down. They're awful. They're just so defensive. It was 4-5-1, a blanket sheet, and you nearly got what you wanted on the day. But then fast forward 3 months to the way you played in the second half against us at Turf Moor, and you well deserved to win. Chalk and cheese, mate. It was like 2 different teams.
Well, Dash sort of said after the start of the season, it was...
He probably tried to do what Stoke did a few years ago in sort of playing more open, expansive football, but it didn't work. So he's probably gone to New Year and thought, you know what, need to get back to basics. He's brought the young lad Dwight McNeil in as well. Like, he's had a fantastic season for it to be his breakthrough season. Like, absolutely incredible. And he was just, I think with the way, like you say, Daesh has his defensive players. If he'd have bought a player in for a lot of money, then he would have. McNeil came in, he's just been fearless and not had to do the defensive work the same as. So he honestly has been incredible this season.
Just looking back, 12 points from 19 games you had.
Yeah. And then he's dropped Hart, put Heaton in. Dwight McNeil's come into the team. And honestly don't know what happened.
Sorry, I mentioned at the start, what about the Ropey League? Do you think that had an impact on the squad? Thursday nights and travelling to here, there and everywhere and that kind of thing?
I mean, in terms of cup competitions, we've always been, under Daesh, we've always been rubbish in FA Cup, League Cup. You know, we've been knocked out with Lincoln, Accrington. Yeah. We've had some really shocking. So, and he's gone into it and played his reserves. But ever since Daesh has been there, his mentality has been one game at a time. We play our best team to win the game that's in front of us.
Right.
So we've gone to the Europa League. He's rotated it. You know, some of the rumours were that some of the players that got us there wanted to play in the Europa League.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And I don't know whether it was just a mixture of it both, but certainly took its toll on us. But I don't think it was just that. I think there's been some kind of disagreement or something as well.
Second half of that season, give that more perspective. Tottenham 26 points, Burnley 28.
Yeah, I mean, the second half of the season was the Burnley we know and love that keep it tight at the back, keep clean sheets. Kick-started, I don't know if it's kick-started, but we were one of the early victories when we came up to Turf Moor and you beat us. That was one of the early ones on the start on the road to recovery. So, yeah. But
you can always rely on West Ham.
Yeah, we'll always help a brother out. That
was the game that changed it.
Yeah, there are plenty of interesting assets at Turf Moor for people to pick from for next season. Do you see many changes in pricing around a lot of the players?
I think if anything, some will go down. Potentially some of the defenders. If Tarkowski goes, Ben Mee's still a good solid centre half to have. I think it just depends how we start off, because 3 seasons ago we were sort of shaky but managed to stay up. Obviously the season afterwards we were incredible, got in Europa League. Last season's the Europa League hangover, so it's one of them. If people aren't going to put a Burnley player in straight away, it's probably worth keeping an eye out on some. Like I said, Dwight McNeil's definitely one to keep an eye out for.
You'd expect he'd come in at a 4.5.
But McNeil?
Yeah.
No, not now.
You think he's going to be as high as 5?
He had 75 points in 21 appearances.
Yeah.
75 in 21, that's 3.5 a game. Now it's £4 million.
Yeah.
It was 112 in 31. He's 3.6 a game. So Pedro's only 0.1 point a game more than McNeil. And that's his breakthrough.
Essentially, other than Darren Gibson played is it Darren Gibson or Ben Gibson, isn't it?
Ben.
Played one game and had a clean sheet and got 6 points. Of those who played sort of at least half the games, Joe Hart and McNeil have got the highest points per match ratio at 3.6 per game.
I think he conceded. I think Gibson conceded a lot, you know. I think he conceded 5 but scored.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, is that what happened?
I feel like I'm going to have to check that out just for the crack.
That was his debut.
Oh, yeah, he lost 5-1 at home to Everton. Played 62 minutes, scored. I love it. I didn't realise that. That's a great stat, that.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah, played 1 game, conceded 5, got 6 points.
That's his fantasy football debut as well.
Yeah,
wow.
Love it. The one I'm interested in, I think all the defenders, Jack, could well drop to 4.5 this year.
Yeah.
Including maybe even Heaton, which I think would be very attractive.
Heaton at 4.5 is a shoo-in.
Depends on Heaton, because
Very
he's been
attractive, isn't it?
Nick Pope's just signed a long-term contract.
He's going to want to play, isn't he? Pope.
He's
in the England squad.
Yeah. Well, Heaton's in the England squad, but Pope was. When Pope went to the World Cup last season.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Pope was in the World Cup squads. He's going to want to play football, isn't he?
Pope at 4.5 is just as an interesting an option as Heaton at 4.5. I don't think there's much in between the two goalkeepers. Heaton's better, but obviously older. I mean, regardless of if Heaton leaves
as well. So
yeah, I think Heaton gets the edge of the two, but they're both decent goalkeepers. The one I really wanted to ask you about, Jack, was Charlie Taylor.
Yeah, he'd be the one for me if you were to pick a fullback.
Yes.
Season before that, I would have said Loughton, but he's the one that's potentially had the argument with Dyche.
Yeah.
Bardsley, I mean, if you ask my dad about Bardsley, I hated him, could not stand him. Came in this season, had 2 shaky games, then his third game was just incredible.
Did a job, didn't he?
Yeah, and he's had a good solid season, and he's probably another one that helped steady the ship. But definitely Charlie Taylor. A lot of fans didn't like him at the first, but when he left Leeds, he ran his contract down, and the manager refused to play him for the last sort of 20 games of the season. So he came off the back of not playing for Leeds and sitting on our bench for sort of like a season and a half. So he's been out of football for a long time. But no, I think if there's going to be anyone getting the points from fullback, it's definitely going to be Taylor.
And Stephen Wood's been released, isn't he? I think so. Yeah. Unless you buy there, that looks like a lock at left back, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've been linked with a couple of left backs, but to be honest, even if Dyche buys someone, he very rarely chucks them straight in. He'd need a reason to drop Charlie Taylor. You know, even if we went and bought, I don't know, best left back in the world, he'd still manage to start with Charlie Taylor, knowing how the way Dyche works.
Is he quite an attacking fullback, Charlie Taylor? Would you say? Well, he's not in the mould of a Robertson or Trent Alexander-Arnold or none of these guys.
No. He is attacking. He gets forward quite a bit. But he's not what, if you look at him, it's not what you expect because he's quite a big lad.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, he does get forward quite a bit. Definitely, last season he was more attacking than Barsley, I would say. It was just building game on game. When he first came in, I remember the person next to me said, just watch him for 10 minutes, and every single pass went backwards.
Yeah.
And then it got to, like we said, we played West Ham, got over New Year, turned a corner, and he was just starting playing like more attacking, going forward more, playing balls forward. So he definitely changed, but I don't know. I don't know what.
There was a shift in the whole squad, wasn't there?
Yeah.
On the back of that sort of really bad December where it looked bleak.
I think it was. Dyche said he had a meeting with them, so they just sat down and said, "Look, lads, what do we want to do? What are you going to do going forward?" And he puts it on them as much as himself, which is obviously why he's rated as such a good manager.
One of the big surprises from the second half of the season, if you cast your mind back a year, Suj, the one we were all looking at was Goodmanson.
Good man, son.
Who hardly played second half of the season.
Yeah.
I think that was partly because
injuries.
Hendrick was doing a job on the right. McNeil came in the team, did really well. And Dyche, if he's happy with how they're playing, he won't change it no matter what. That's how it always feels.
He had a spell out with an injury, right? And then couldn't get back in.
What's the story with him? Because we think he's a fucking good player, mate.
He is a good player, but he's 3 games in, 3 games out. He's too inconsistent. So he's one of those, if you do jump on him, you've got to then have a free transfer ready to take him out. It'd be interesting to see because he's not really had, since he's been here, a solid season where he's made 40 appearances. Because with the way Dyche plays, if he's fit for 40 games, he'll play all 40 games. McNeil's definitely going to start on one side. So he's a left footer and so is Goodmanson. So we've got Brady, left-footed, McNeil as well. They're both left-footed. So the only right footers are Hendrick, he's not his natural position, and Aaron Lennon, but he's coming back from injury. So we'd be playing with 2 left footers, I'd imagine.
I think
the best
McNeil. The best pair is McNeil left, Goodmanson right, isn't it? I would have thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just looking at Goodmanson's numbers, I mean, he played under half the minutes last year. 3 goals, 7 assists. So essentially, it's attacking right.
Every other game.
Every other 90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The previous season, he had 9 assists.
What was he, 5.5 or 6 last year?
Last year, he started at 6.
That's the problem. No, if David Brooks comes in at 6 next season, which will be a million increase on last season, then you're not going to be wanting to look at Goodmanson at that point. 6 is too expensive.
If Goodmanson gets back in, you look at the way Burnley finished the season. If he was 5.5, and I would expect probably a decrease on the back of that, then I mean, maybe he's in that value I think you consider. Talk to me, Jack, if you can. I mean, one of the big questions I wanted to ask any of the correspondents, in one word, Barnes or Wood?
I would have said Wood in the past, but Ashley Barnes is just, I don't know what it is about him. He's technical. You watch him and you think he can't score the goals he scores, but he's just an animal. He just gets right in defenders' faces, and I'd be leaning more towards Barnes because I think Dyche tries to go away from the nitty-gritty every season, but we go 5 or 6 games in and he'll go, you know what, let's just play the way we know. But
I did a piece at
the start of the season about Wood and said how good his return was, but then he started benching him after like the second game week or something, so that backfired.
You have to say Barnes because of your pinned tweet, which is possibly the greatest thread on Twitter I've seen for a long time.
Brilliant.
After that, you'd be hard pushed to say it would. But you looked at the numbers on Chris Wood.
Chris Wood was one when FPL Canal looked at the numbers for the second half of the season. Wood scored 99 points the second half of the season. My jaw hit the floor when I saw that. I still can't get my head around it. I don't know how that happened. Wood and Barnes both got double figures in goals again last season. And I think if you think of those that are going to jump up this year, like your Jimenez, your Wilson, etc., Barnes and Wood are going to be underneath this again. I was disappointed with the opening run of fixtures because Wood was nearly a lock for me to start with, I think.
Yeah, I think looking at the price last year, Wood finished on 6.3 and Barnes was 5.6, and there was 10 in it. Wood finished 10 higher than Barnes. 9 higher than Barnes, but it's one of them. If you go for Jimenez, you know he's the lone striker. If you go for Wood or Barnes, you know that whichever one's in your team, the other one will score 2 that week, don't you?
That's the problem.
You say that, but obviously Jota with Wolves now as well, so I don't think that's as clear cut. But yeah, that's a fair choice, Barnes or Wood, because every chance will come in the same price as well. Yeah, and I don't think it's not cut and dry which one would be the better FPL asset.
Well, you'd
I think
hope that
they'll
both
be
will
6
play.
next season.
6 is what I'd expect them to come in at. Maybe 6.5 for Chris Wood, but you can't see Burnley sticking with 2 up front.
Yeah, I definitely will.
So why?
Look how
why
they
not
played
both of
second
them, then?
half. What, both in your FPL team?
No. But then why are you worried about who'll play? Or are you worried
I'm not worried about who'll play. I'm worried about picking
who's
the
gonna
wrong
get the
fucking
return?
one. It's the fucking Josh King, Callum
Well,
Wilson
it's
conundrum,
9 points
isn't it?
over the course of the season, so it's a set and forget, isn't it? The thing with those is I feel like Burnley players, because of what you've mentioned in terms of Sean Dyche not changing his team, are set and forgets. And it's that. And with a striker, I can understand, because we were talking about formations earlier, 3-4-3. You're a 6 million striker. You want him to be a player that plays week in, week out. With the defence at 4.5s, they can be benched.
I'm not worried about them 2 starting because they're so much better than what's behind in sort of Vidra, etc. Would you agree, Jack?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Vidra's been a complete waste. We've been linked with Rodriguez as well.
Is Crouchy for next season as well, or was it only till the end of the season you had him?
At the end of the season, he's on the release list that BBC have published, but we've not announced it.
Right,
so
okay.
Dyche has spoke to him, said he's still in good fitness, which I don't know how, because he's like 8 foot tall and 47.
He couldn't run when he was at Spurs 10 years ago, mate. So he's finally learnt how to time his headers, which he doesn't need to time because he's so fucking tall. But yeah, them 2.
The thing is, I think you know what you're getting with Barnes. I think Barnes is quite consistent. Wood would be the one that if you think, wow, he's had Wood score loads and loads of goals, it might be Wood. Just depends how he sets out, because, like I said, some fans hate him, some fans love him. He's a bit like chalk and cheese. But
why is that, Jack?
I don't know. I just think Wood's a little bit. He can miss a few.
Is it because Barnes is so? He's one of them, many. If he's in your team, you love him. If he plays for your opposition, you think bastard. He is like that, Ashley Barnes. He's great. You'd love him if he's yours.
Of the world.
Do you think that affects him badly because Barnes is so up and at you?
No, it just doesn't bother him. It doesn't, literally every game just doesn't phase him. He just goes straight in.
No, I mean in terms of the fans' opinion of Wood. Is it because that's how Barnes
Wood.
play?
No, I don't think so. I think Wood seems pretty chilled out about it. He seems. I don't say a lot of fans dislike. They just, there'll be a few groans when he has his misses. Whereas Ashley Barnes sort of gets away with it a bit more because he's been there longer, more of a fan favourite, and we didn't pay like 15 million quid for him. We paid 500 grand. So I think the expectation's different.
That's true.
I think you got change from 500 grand on Ashley Barnes, didn't you?
Yeah.
About 50 grand in change.
Sean Dyche's first signing, we paid for that as well.
Oh, really? It's interesting you talk about expectation. What is it this year?
Just build on the last year, I think. I think it'd be interesting to see what we do without the Europa League. I don't expect us to go and spend 50 million quid.
You never will, mate.
We've still not even released our kit yet, never mind.
Neither have we, mate.
So, no, I'd expect 12th, something like that, would be going for.
It's interesting because we keep saying so, when we speak to like Ali FPL Gaffer with Southampton, kind of ring together them 2.
Yep.
And you both feel like they'll both be better next year. You can't 100%. See like Palace decreasing. You're looking at the teams coming up and thinking they're all okay.
Yeah.
And then we had the news. Obviously, we're recording this Monday night. The news at lunchtime about Rafa. And suddenly you start thinking Newcastle are in trouble, mate.
Yeah.
But how have they gone from signing Mbappe to being in the Championship next season?
That's the world of a Newcastle United fan.
Yeah,
I think.
true.
We barely managed to get through. We've done individual podcasts, and Newcastle got no relevance basically to FPL at this minute, and we've barely gone through a podcast without mentioning them somewhere, I think.
Yeah.
Incredible. They'll be, at this rate, they'll be favourites to go down by the time it kicks off. Because you can't see like them. I think Burnley are probably just above Brighton in the betting to go down. I think it's bottom 3, then Brighton, then Burnley probably. But on them points second half of last season,
bottom 3 meaning they're promoted sides.
If they can average that second half of the season points over the whole season, they'll be close to 7th again.
That's what we did the year before, though. We had such a good start to the season, and then we sort of trailed off, but still managed to get Europa League.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting to have one season where we're consistently
throughout
we
the
just
whole
spread it
year.
out over the season.
Did you get away in Europe, by the way?
Yeah. Went to Istanbul and Athens.
Nice. Any trouble? Any police trouble?
No.
Because
It was all fine.
James was there getting them rowdy.
I've not been for football in Turkey or Greece. I think
No.
I'm too short for that shit.
One of them though, where they stood there with the one guy had the riot shield with he didn't even clean the blood off it. He just left it there like a trophy. So you thought,
Wow.
if this kicks off,
Yeah, avoid that guy.
yeah. But no, it was hard work because as we did it, we sort of beat Aberdeen on the Thursday night, and the away fixture was the following Thursday. So I had sort of by the time I went into work and got the days off.
Oh, I remember messaging you and
yeah.
saying, "Fucking go, mate!" I
Hurry,
remember
get
that.
on
Yeah.
it.
So the flights cost an arm and a leg. And then obviously we got through by the skin of our teeth against Istanbul. And then the away fixture was first again. So we had another 6 days.
Wow.
So I think I'd spent about £1,300 just on flights.
Oof.
On the preliminary round of the Europa League.
Yeah.
Yes.
True.
Good.
But then
That
that's the
man,
thing we
I'd say
talk
get
about.
that man a beer, but he's got one.
He's got one already. Thing is, for clubs like Burnley and even West Ham, when we get into Europe, you've got to make the most of it because it doesn't happen often. And so get those away days in for sure.
Well, as it turned out, the season where we got into the Europa League in December when we played Stoke, we're in like a bad car accident on the motorway. We got rear-ended. So the compensation from like my whiplash basically just paid for my European.
There you go.
Oh,
adventure,
noted.
so
Yeah.
every cloud and all that.
We were talking about relegation there very briefly. It says a lot that I'm a pessimistic West Ham fan at the best of times anyway, but I'm more worried about West Ham going down next season than Burnley. And that's not so much because the players on the pitch, it's the manager. I think Sean Dyche always seems to get a tune out of the players.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. When the guy tweeted and said, what is it that's changed? It wasn't personnel. It was more just the outlook. It's how the mentality just changed. And that's if you look at in terms of on paper in the Premier League, we're one of the worst teams. We should be favourites to go down again, and we are. But that's sort of where Dyche likes to be. You know, if we're bottom of the pack, all we look for is just to go a bit higher, and he can achieve that.
It's one of the reasons why I think Sheffield United will the most likely to stay up of the promoted sides. Because the manager, the downside of that is that he's so much a part of the club. Like Burnley equals Sean Dyche, and if you remove him from the equation, like the whole setup of the club, the philosophy of football, everything disappears with one guy. I mean, United had that with Sir Alex, and they were in a different league at the time. But it goes to show when someone has that strength of character, amazing things can happen. You can perform better on the pitch than what you would potentially think on paper. So obviously you need to try and keep that guy for as long as possible. Yeah,
definitely. I think this is probably a season that I'm worried about because what can Dyche achieve this year? You know, like I'm saying we're going to stay up. You know, if we stay up, we finish 7th to get in the Europa League. We're not going to do that again. How long does he wait around for? But what job tempts him? Would the Newcastle job tempt him eventually because they're a bigger club? Don't think so.
I'll tell you what, I didn't even want to go there. But Dyche to
a great
Newcastle
appointment, wouldn't it?
would be an incredible appointment for him. He'd get the opportunity at a decent club. I don't want to wish your manager away at all, but what an opportunity that would be for him.
But then, like you'd look at a team like Everton, but that job came up and he didn't even chuck his name in the hat.
Yeah,
the other year.
Yeah, I think for those at the top end of that. It's really difficult. I mean, Eddie Howe, for different reasons, has got similar problems with what he's done at Bournemouth. You know, none of the top 6 are going to take a chance on either of these two, for example.
No.
So it's up to the guys in behind, the sort of the Evertons yourselves. Is it even that much of a jump, right? Whereas, say, Newcastle are in the shit. You can go in there, it's on the floor.
Yeah.
And if he can take it up, then he's got a chance of being an elitist top half Premier League manager, if you will. I don't mean any of that disrespectfully, but they're a huge club, Newcastle, in terms of the fan base, etc. Not that anything on the field has proved it in the last 15 years. I would be, it's not something I'd thought about before this podcast, but yeah, you would be very concerned if Dyche wasn't manager.
I think
it's a strange one, though, isn't it? It's because his style of play wouldn't suit. You know, you look at Pep, and Pep's his philosophy is his way of football, whereas if Sean Dyche took Burnley into a top 6 club, would they want that? that's kind of like what Moyes did from Everton going on, isn't it? It's like he went there.
But was
the Arsenal 1-0 to the Arsenal back in the day?
Everton's a good case because Everton fans, we spoke about this with Sean at Spirit Blues and that. The main thing that Everton fans want to see, they want to see progressive football. Now, if it means they've got a target man, they go direct to him and then play off, they're all right with that. They would probably prefer that than be slow and pedestrian on the ball. And Dyche has probably got a reputation like others, like Warnock, etc. And it's nowhere near as bad. He's going with a front two regularly. He likes to play wide players. He likes to get fullbacks who'll get up the pitch and get the ball into the box. Yeah, they play to their strengths. I wouldn't call them boring.
No.
Some of my mates say that. They say, like, I'd hate to watch that football week in,
Who
week
says
out.
that?
One of my mates at work. It's one of those things, though. I'd hate to watch that football week in, week out if you get beat 5-0 week in, week out.
Well, if you're winning,
it's a lot easier.
And we held on. It should have been a draw. But like you said, we conceded at the end. But we've been to the
that team who played us just before Christmas it had nothing.
Yeah.
Like we played Cardiff at home, Huddersfield at home. They offered a lot more, mate. As I said, you nearly got something out of it. But then the team, you well beat us when you played us at the end of February.
Yeah.
And it was probably the same. You beat them 4-2 at home, and defensively they looked shocking.
Rubbish.
And then you already said that was the game that kind of changed your season. Was it 2-0, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's interesting that, and it's funny, Dyche's name's not been mentioned with Newcastle yet. Maybe we're starting this ball rolling. But
we
Gary
really
Monk,
shouldn't have brought this up.
Nah.
He wouldn't go to Newcastle, but I'm just saying what tempts him in future, because I think this is his season where you look at him and you think, after this season, where are we going to go?
If you stay up again this season, then
that's like that for a lot of Premier League sides, isn't it? We spoke a few weeks ago about survival, and with respect for Burnley, the first objective every year is to survive.
Yeah.
And then, even the year you finished 7th, all the way through, until you got to sort of like 41, 42 points, that was all that was coming out of his mouth, wasn't it? And then, then think about, can we qualify for the Europa League? I mean, you saw the destabilising effect it kind of had last year. Is it even worth it? You say that a lot, don't you?
What, the Europa League?
Yeah.
It's not if you haven't got a squad that's got any kind of depth.
But then that's got to be the objective, because if the top 6 is going to stay the top 6, only one team, and that's if the top 6 win the cups, there's only one other place available.
If you offered me as a West Ham fan, I don't know, top 10 finish, and you've got 12 games against the top 6, home and away. Give me 4 wins, 3 draws against the top 6 over the season. Maybe 4-5 wins.
Taking the piss.
What?
15. Fucking hell! What are you
10th.
smoking?
12 games against the top 6, to win 4, draw 3, and finish 10th.
Well, yeah, I think anybody outside the top 6 would take that. I'd take that.
Yeah,
I'm in it.
Yeah. Well, so we beat Arsenal last year. We beat United last year. Do you know what I mean? So it's not that it's not possible. And Burnley are the same. They can just as easily take points of the top 6. So winning 4 or 5 games against the top 6 is really what you end up playing for. People take the piss out of West Ham as being up for the big games and not the smaller ones. And I suppose it is. What are we playing for?
I think with them,
I think the majority of Burnley fans wouldn't want to get in Europe again. I'm the opposite, because I think you say what's our expectations? All we're trying to do is survive in the Premier League, but that involves getting beat. How many times a season?
Do you get you kind of mentioned it with I remember watching the Lincoln game, and I think the Accrington game was on Sky as well. Do you get annoyed with that, with the teams he puts out in the cup?
Well, because they were local, and I went to both of those. So when you're there, you're annoyed because you just think, "My God, I'm going to get so much stick tomorrow," that kind of thing. But I think this might be the season where we consider having a cup run. Dyche really needs to look at it and think, if we're not going to get into Europa League again, which we're not, and we are going to stay up. But yeah, it does annoy me when we get beat for those sorts of teams, because it's just like
unnecessary, isn't it?
We've probably got a squad good enough to get to at least quarters, you'd say, if we have a good run in.
It's all draw dependent, isn't it? Look at Man City's run to the final this year was...
Yeah.
Any of us could have had that run and might have made it, in fairness.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter if we're going to get beat off Lincoln and Accrington. It doesn't matter what run.
Well, no, of course not. No.
Yeah.
Jack, pleasure, mate. Really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much, lads.
Yeah, we're going to leave you to your Super Bock.
Yeah, you're Monday night in Burnley. Jack's on the piss.
Yeah. Talking of beer, we're recording our last 30 and 30. So we've only got 2 more episodes to record. Chelsea, and then a final wrap-up on 30 and 30. At 6th goal, Stephen Toomey sent a care package all the way from California for us. My missus messaged me earlier. She goes, there's a parcel that was left by the front door. I don't know, the courier, whoever must have left it, addressed to Sudge, James and Manchild. What's in this box? And I go, that must be beer all the way from California. I was thinking we could crack it open on our final show, 30 and 30, apart from we're planning to record at like 8 in the morning. So unless that's allowed, I don't know, Jack, are we allowed to drink at 8 in the morning before work? We can have one. Can't we? So we're going to have a special episode just to drink Stephen.
If we stay up all night from Thursday night, that's acceptable.
Yeah, if you're not going to sleep, then it's acceptable.
Yeah, right, I agree. Yeah,
there's the plan. So Stephen, thanks for sending the beer over. I don't think we're going to get a chance to open them in the 30 and 30, but we'll do our own beer review, 60-second beer review on the way.
We'll have those beers when the prices come out.
Oh, perfect. There we go. Done. Celebration. We're 2 episodes to go.
Yeah, tomorrow we've got Ted at Rotation FPL. As of right now, we do not know who Chelsea manager is going to be. We all assume it's going to be Frank Lampard. But it's going to be fascinating. There's loads I want to talk to Ted about in terms of the youngsters in the squad who could break through this year, how they're going to cope without Hazard, etc. Should be a fascinating listen because I don't think we really know what to do with Chelsea assets.
No, we
next
don't.
Year.
But again, they are a top 6 side who were top 3 side, which is stupid not to have players from a top 3 side potentially. And Chelsea always seem to do well when their back's against the wall and it's them against the world.
It's their model. So, nobody else can work like that, but they do.
Yeah, it seems to be. So it'd be stupid to ignore them. So we'll have a good chat with Ted tomorrow.
Super FPL rank as well, finishing the top 1,000 last year.
Again,
sorry.
Keeps finding these correspondents, Jack, that like top 2K and top 3K and bringing them on the show. And
Jack, we need better this year, mate.
Yeah, we think we'd learn. We'd learn something from.
I'm just here to make everyone else look good.
Good.
Thank you, mate. That's what I thought he was here for.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought that was my job. Can I ask you a quick question, Jack, before we wrap up? How many away games did you go to last year then? Seems like you got to quite a few.
Obviously, the European ones, do all the local ones. Maybe like, including the European ones, maybe like 10 or 11, something like that.
Fair play. I mean, just blown away with the correspondence that we've had, the dedication to their clubs and how they go week in, week out. It makes me feel like I get to 15 home games. I'll miss 3 over the course of a season. Just a rubbish plastic fan.
Brothers getting married or something.
Yeah. I've only got 2 brothers, but we'll see. Cool. Thanks so much. It's just interesting for me to know that the correspondents are real properly into their clubs week in, week out, 10 away games, travelling all around. So if you've got a question about Burnley, then Jack is the man to ask. Where can they find you on the old Twitter machine?
Turfy Topper, my handle. So
yeah, no underscores, no none of that nonsense.
No, just Turfy Topper.
Turfy Topper to find Jack, and any questions about Burnley when the prices are out, you know where to ask him. And thanks for the articles and all the contributions throughout the season. Looking forward to more next year.
Yep, thank you very much.
No worries, James. Anything to add?
Nah, thank you, Jack.
Ciao for now.
Cue music, man, child.
The Fantasy Football Show.